Hello. You're back. Pull up a chair, have a seat. Don't sit on the cat. He gets a little upset. And welcome back. The night is old and the fire is honest. It burns with the kind of patience that only ancient things possess. Mountains, rivers, and people who've lived long enough to stop pretending that they've got it all together. Here in the circle of firelight, we remember a world where meaning had weight, words had gravity, and the soul wasn't treated like a decorative pillow that you swap out every season. If you came here looking for comfort, you'll get some, but only the kind that tells the truth. If you came looking for wisdom, you'll find it, but it may arrive wearing sarcasm and carrying a stick. So settle in, let the fire press in on you a little. Let the heaviness do its work. Because here in the Firelight Dialogues, we don't chase enlightenment, we cultivate weight. You know, the fire remembers what we forget, not because it's magical, but because it's honest. It changes every second and never pretends otherwise, which frankly is more than can be said for most modern adults. And what we forget most often is that we're not really as complicated as we pretend to be, or we try to be. We build personality tests, we build productivity systems, we build entire industries devoted to helping us optimize, optimize. We put existential dread into color-coded calendars. Then we eat cereal for dinner, scroll until midnight, and wonder why we feel hollow. Every ancient culture, from the Greeks to the Hebrews, from India to China, looked at the universe and said, yep, five things, that's all you get: earth, water, air, fire, and then that mysterious fifth one, ether, Aether, ether. That's the cosmic equivalent of just trust me, kid. And somehow, some way, those five things also describe you. Yes, you. You're not a special case. You're a pocket-sized universe with a nervous system and some pretty questionable impulse control, which is beautiful. And it also explains a lot. So now that you've pulled up a chair and not sat on the cat, let's wander through 5,000 years of human head scratching and see why every tradition thinks that you're a walking cosmology. Here's the basic insult the ancients handed us. They said the universe is made up of a handful of sources, and so are you. Earth in your actions, water in your emotions, air in your thoughts, fire in your will, ether in your meaning. So, if you're feeling chaotic, inconsistent, conflicted, like you've got five people running around inside one body and none of them share a calendar, good. That's not a bug, that's the design. Your trouble is not that you're broken. Your trouble is that you keep letting one element run the whole show. If you let Earth run it, you become efficient and dead inside. You let water run it, and you become soulful and exhausted. You let air run it, and you become brilliant and an insomniac. And if you let fire run it, you become inspired. and broke. You let ether run it and you become profound. And then you forget where you parked your car or left your house keys. Balance isn't a destination, it's a negotiation, a daily conversation between your impulses and your better judgment. And some days your impulses win. That's fine. Just maybe don't give fire your credit card, especially after midnight. Today, we're going to name the five because naming a thing makes it visible. And when it's visible, you can stop being unconsciously possessed by it. Let's begin with the one nobody wants to romanticize because it makes you do the dishes. Earth. Earth is the part of you that actually gets things done. It's the body, the habits, the routines, the alarm clock you resent, but you obey anyway. Earth is that voice that says, maybe it's not such a good idea to buy a kayak at 2 a.m. because you watched one inspirational video. Now, listen, I'm not judging. I'm just saying if you bought a kayak at 2 a.m., Earth wasn't driving. That was fire riding shotgun, air doing the narration, water crying because it felt meaningful, and ether trying to convince you it's all part of your destiny. Earth is your inner grown up. It's not a fun character, but a necessary one. Across traditions, Earth is always the same character. Different costumes, same job description. To the Greeks, Earth is form and stability, the part that doesn't drift. Hebrews, Adamah, is the ground you're made of. Same root as Adam. Humanity is, linguistically, the dirt thing. We've been trying to upgrade that branding ever since. Vedic sages say Prithvi, the structure of being, the patient floor of existence. Chinese thinkers, earth phase as center, nourishment, holding, metabolizing. Chinese medicines pairs earth with digestion and worry, because worry is the mind eating itself instead of trusting the ground beneath it. That's not mystical. That's last Tuesday. Hermeticists, earth is the body, the practical, the real. Translation: before you ascend to that higher consciousness, do your laundry. Now I want you to do something right now. Put your feet on the floor, not on the carpet, ideally on the earth, but the floor will do. Feel the pressure of the planet pushing back. That's what physicists call the normal force. That's what every grandmother in every culture called the ground. Earth requires no imagination. You're made of it. The carbon in your cells came from stardust, settled into the soil, entered into the food chain, and ended up as you. You are, by actual thinking, the earth thinking. And if that doesn't humble you, nothing will. Every tradition has an earth goddess: Gaia, Prithvi, Pachamama, Nerthus, Terra Mater, Asaya, who doesn't have her own day of worship in some traditions because every day you walk on her is devotion. Earth doesn't hurry. Earth doesn't tweet. Earth doesn't optimize. Earth simply continues, and things grow from it, and things return to it. And it does not distinguish between the king's bones and the peasant's bones. In the end, everything rests in the same field. And in a way, I find that deeply comforting because it means that the universe is not impressed by your ego, which is good. Your ego needs adult supervision. Now, let me tell you about dirt, real dirt, the kind that gets under your fingernails. A single teaspoon of healthy soil contains around 1 billion bacteria, yards of fungal filaments, and thousands of species we haven't even named yet. Under a forest is a fungal network, the so-called wood wide web. Trees share nutrients, they signal distress, they support their offspring. A forest doesn't compete, it cooperates. Every wisdom tradition hinted at this. We needed microscopes to confirm it. Earth is slowness as a virtue. Earth is staying power. Earth is the refusal to be abstract. If you want the Earth tradition in one sentence, show up, do the work, remain, and eventually something will grow. Now, from the element that holds to the element that remembers. Water is older than you, not metaphorically, literally. The water in your body has been on this planet for about 4 billion years. It was here before life. It has cycled through ice ages and tropical oceans, through clouds over continents that no longer exists, through the cells of creatures with no name. Every cup of water you drink has, at some point, been somewhere else entirely, which means you are hydrated by history. Thales of Miletus, before Herculetus, said water was the arche, the first principle. He got mocked for this because modern people love mocking ancient people. It makes us feel taller. But the man lived near the Aegean Sea in 600 BCE and he watched life depend on water, watched crops live or die by it, and concluded that water was fundamental. That's not unsophisticated. That's observant. Because water does something no other element does with quite the same drama. Water remembers the shape of what it passed through. Every river is a record. Every canyon is a memoir. The Colorado River didn't blast through the Grand Canyon. It told the story of geology, one patient layer at a time. That river didn't conquer the rock, it just simply refused to stop. And that is a personality trait worth examining. In the Hindu Pancha Bhuta, water is associated with taste. Not water's taste specifically, the faculty of tasting, knowing by immersion, by contact. You don't understand water at arm's length. You have to be in it. Now, water is emotion, and water has a long memory. Water Water's why you cry at commercials. Water is why one song can turn you into a ghost of yourself. Water is why you still remember that thing that somebody said to you way back in 1997. You know the one. You're doing fine until just now. Sorry. That was water reaching into the filing cabinet. Now, let me introduce you to Sarah. Sarah's having a perfectly normal Tuesday. Tea, birds, no crisis. And then her brain says, remember that thing? And Sarah says, what thing? And water says, that, the thing from 1997. And suddenly, Sarah is emotionally ambushed in her own kitchen. She's holding a tea bag, staring into the middle distance, reliving a comment about her haircut from middle school. And the worst part, she's losing that argument again because water doesn't fight fair. Water fights with feelings. This is why you say things like, it's not about the dishes, because it isn't. It's about 7,000 unprocessed moments that water stored like a dragon guarding its treasure. Every major civilization built itself on a river. The Nile, the Tigris, the Euphrates, the Yellow River, the Indus, the Amazon. Not coincidence. Dependency required that it was rendered in geography. And every civilization developed a theology of water. Egypt had Nun, the primordial ocean. Mesopotamia had Tiamat and Apsu. Babylon's creation story is essentially the gods killed the ocean and made the world out of her body. That is a water management myth. That's irrigation anxiety with dragon scales. Flood myths show up everywhere. Genesis, Gilgamesh, Matsaya, Deucalion, the flood that wipes everything clean and forces a restart. There is evidence of catastrophic flooding events throughout prehistory. So here's a thought. Every flood myth might be a memory, a very old memory. The Tao Te Ching uses water as its central image of virtue. The highest good is like water. Water benefits 10,000 things and does not compete. It flows to the lowest places. That's not passivity. That's strategy so patient, it makes human ambition look like a toddler throwing a tantrum in the cereal aisle. In Yoruba tradition, there's Yemoya, mother of waters. She did not cross the ocean with its enslaved peoples. She is the ocean. That's a theological statement with emotional precision. Sacred wells show up in Celtic worlds. Mirmir's well in Norse myth, Odin sacrificed an eye to drink wisdom. Oldest deal in mythology. You give something of yourself to receive something of the world's knowing. Water is the exchange. That's why every tradition built rituals around water. Baptism, mikvah, voodoo, the Ganges, Lourdes, sacred rivers and springs, because water is the membrane between ordinary life and what lies beneath. Water teaches surrender. You don't outthink grief. You don't schedule your way out of heartbreak. You let the water move. Or it's going to move anyway, usually at 2 a.m. Now, from the element that remembers to the element that overthinks, from water to air. Now, here's the philosophical problem with air. You can't see it. You can only see what it does. Leaves move, flags move. You feel pressure on your face, breath in your chest, but air itself, the medium is invisible. And the ancient world took that seriously, very seriously, because the ancient world understood the most important things are often the ones you can't see directly. Anaximenes said air was fundamental. His argument was elegant. Air is breath. Breath is life. Life is movement, and movement is everything. Pneuma in Greek, breath, soul, wind, spirit, one word. They weren't confused, they were precise. In Sanskrit, it's prana. Breath is that is also vital energy. Yoga is, at root, a prana management system. In Hebrew, rauch, wind, breath, spirit. Genesis begins with rauch, moving over the waters. The first creative act is exhalation. In Chinese tradition, qi, martial arts, medicine, calligraphy, architecture. Feng shui, wind and water, is literally arranging your space so the invisible flows well. You don't call it magic, you call it, does this room feel right? Because your body knows. Your body's always been running an evaluation. Now, air is the mind, and the mind is pretty much a raccoon with a laptop stuck in a garbage can. Air is the 3 a.m. overthinking gremlin. It whispers, "Hey, are you asleep?" And you say, "Yes." And it says, "Quick question. Remember that embarrassing thing you did 10 years ago?" And you say, "No." Air says, "Perfect. Let's reconstruct it in high definition." In high definition. Air builds civilizations, writes poetry, invents science. Air also convinces you that a perfectly normal email you sent 3 hours ago was too aggressive, even if that email was simply thanks. Air is your internal narrator, and the narrator is rarely satisfied. You can be safe, warm, loved, and air will still find a way to say, yes, but what if it all falls apart? Air imagines 17 futures, 12 are catastrophic, and then calls this preparation. Air is communication. Speech is breath shaped by intention. Every word you say is air you formed with your body and launched into the space between you and another person. Language is embodied air. Song, on the other hand, is cultivated air. The message in a bottle is romantic, but the whisper across a room is sacred. In Egyptian myth, Shu holds the sky aloft from the earth. Air is the gap that makes that relationship possible. Without space between things, nothing moves, nothing grows, nothing can be said. In Celtic worlds, air is associated with bardic power. A bard shaped breath into verses that outlasted stone. A curse from a skilled bard was feared more than a sword. Because a sword ends one life, a verse can ruin the reputation across generations. Words carry. Words are air that refuses to die. Every contemplative tradition returns to the breath because breath connects your autonomic nervous system to your conscious mind. Change your breath and you change your state. Take a breath. Good. That wasn't mystical. That was biology. But biology is where the sacred keeps hiding. Now, from the element that moves unseen to the element that transforms everything it touches. Let's begin where the Greeks began, with fire. Not metaphorical fire, actual fire. Herculitus of Ephesus, born around 540 BCE and died around 480 BCE, and spectacularly grumpy for the entirety of that period, and I can certainly relate to that, believed that fire was the fundamental substance of reality. He wrote that the universe is an ever-living fire, kindling in measures and being extinguished in measures. Reality breathes. It inhales and exhales. It's always burning and always going out. And the balance between those two is the whole game. Now, before you roll your eyes at ancient Greek philosophy, let me tell you something that should stop you cold. In 1927, Niels Bohr looked at quantum mechanics and said that matter at its most fundamental level is not stuff, it's process. It's not a thing that sits there, it's an event that keeps happening. Herculitus said the same thing in 500 BCE with no particle accelerator. Personally, I find that annoying, not because he was wrong, but because he was right, and it took us 2,400 years to catch up. In the Vedic tradition, fire is Agni, not just a god, the cosmic principle of transformation. Every sacrifice, every burning, every digestion, yes, digestion, the fire in your belly, which means that the ancients believed your stomach was holy. I respect that. Boy, do I respect that. The Rig Veda opens with the word Agni, not a creation story, not a declaration of faith, a shout into the cosmos. Fire! First thing, go. In Chinese, Wu Xing, fire corresponds to the heart, to summer, to joy. It's pathological excess, mania. Chinese medicine will tell you a person who laughs inappropriately has too much fire in their heart meridian. So, if you've been to enough holiday parties, you know exactly who they mean. In West African Yoruba tradition, fire and lightning are Shango, not gentle warmth, justice. The fire that falls from the sky and does not negotiate. Lightning doesn't ask, lightning arrives. Zoroastrians maintained sacred fires, not fires they lit, fires they received. Some have burned for over 1,000 years. 1,000 years, one fire. Your scented candle collection is adorable. I say that with affection because there's something we've lost when we domesticated fire. We made it invisible, automated, unconscious. We heat homes with fire we never see, drive on controlled explosions, and then we wonder why people feel like nothing ever really changes. You want transformation? You have to actually burn something. Hopefully metaphorically, but something has to go. Fire is will, desire, passion. Fire is why you start projects you have no business starting. Fire is why you think you can fix people. Spoiler, you can't. Fire is your inner hype man. Great for motivation, terrible for impulse control. Fires must be tended. Because if you don't tend fire, it becomes a brush fire or a wildfire. And wildfires have a habit of leaving you with a lot less than you started with. From the element that transforms to the element that holds the relationships between everything, from fire to ether. Now, every tradition we've talked about has a fifth thing, a thing that doesn't behave like the other four. The Greeks called it ether. Aristotle added it because the celestial bodies didn't look like they were made of earth, water, air, or fire. They moved in perfect circles. They didn't decay. So he proposed a fifth substance, quintessence. He wasn't wrong about the mechanism, but he was onto something really real. There is a quality of experience the other four don't cover. There is something that remains. The Vedic tradition calls it akasha, often translated as ether or space. But akasha is not empty space. Akasha is the space in which experience occurs, the container of all containers. It's associated with sound, not because sound is airy, but because sound is vibration making the void known. Nada Brahma. The universe is sound. Reality is vibration occurring in the field of awareness. Chinese tradition is the most honest here. Their fifth is not a spiritual abstraction, but earth at the center, the thing that mediates and grounds. Translation. If you need a fifth principle, let it be the thing that holds relationships together. Systems thinking, 2,000 years early. Hermeticists called it spirit, unity, true self. And it's the hardest to point at because it's the pointer. It's the awareness looking. It's the witness. You can't examine it like an object because every attempt to examine it is itself an instance of it operating. Now, us modern people get kind of twitchy here because we like what we can measure. We like charts. We like metrics. If you can't put it in a spreadsheet, we get awfully suspicious. And yet, you live your entire life based on things you can't measure. Love, meaning, beauty, regret, grief, wonder. You ever tried measuring regret? On a scale of 1 to 10, how haunted are you today? Yeah, exactly. William James documented mystical experience and concluded there was something in consciousness we can describe, but we can't explain. Not belief, not structure. Sufi tradition calls the in-between barzakh, the membrane. Every indigenous tradition has a name for that zone. Otherworld, dream time, Nagual, Bardos, and the cave paintings at Lascaux aren't decorations, they're records. Somebody's report from somewhere else. That fifth element humbles you because it requires you to admit your model is incomplete. There is more going on than you have the instruments to detect. It's said that the universe is 13.8 billion years old. Empirical science has existed for a few hundred years. A little humility seems warranted. Ether is meaning, purpose, the quiet hum behind your eyes that says, yep, this matters. Even when your life looks like a collection of questionable decisions, probably especially then. Now, here's what I can't get over. Different cultures, different languages, different rituals, different gods, but the same architecture. Earth, air, fire, and a fifth. Some call it ether, some call it spirit, some call it akasha, some call it the center, some call it chi. But everybody points at the same thing. There's an invisible something holding the visible somethings together. As above, so below. That phrase is hermetic, but the idea is everywhere. Genesis, dust and breath. Vedic, body woven of elements. Chinese medicine, diagnosis as elemental imbalance. Greek, temperament blend. Indigenous traditions, ground, water, wind, flame, spirit. Different worlds, different words, same map. So maybe, just maybe, the reason you feel pulled in 5 directions is because you are. You're not a mess. You're a choir. And some days one singer is louder, and other days one of your singers is off key. And some days the fire shows up drunk and tries to solo. So let's make this useful because insight that can't be applied is just entertainment with a spiritual accent. Here's a quick elemental audit. No incense required. Earth, are you sleeping? Are you eating something that grew out of dirt instead of out of a factory? Are you moving your body like it belongs to you? Water. What are you feeling that you keep trying to outthink? What's been stuck since 1997? Air. What are you rehearsing that will never happen? What are you worrying about that isn't real yet and may never be? Fire. What do you want? Not what should you want. What do you actually want? And are you tending it or letting it burn your life down? Ether. What gives your life meaning And don't tell me being busy. Being busy isn't meaning. Being busy is a symptom. If you can't answer those 5 questions honestly, you're already more awake than most people. Now that I've told you about 5,000 years of wisdom across 6 continents, let me tell you how you're doing. You're not doing great. We took 5, transformation, and put it in a gas range and forgot about it. We heat homes with fires we never see, drive on controlled explosions, and never wonder. Then we wonder why our lives never really change. You want transformation, you got to burn something. Metaphorically, hopefully, but something has to go. Water? The closest thing to universal sacred substance. And we put it in single-use plastic bottles, shipped it thousands of miles, and sold it back to people who live near aquifers. Then we acted surprised when the aquifers were depleted. We dammed rivers until they forgot where they were going. A river that doesn't reach the sea is a river that has been given orders it didn't ask for. Water doesn't take orders, water waits. Earth? We covered it in pavement and called it progress. We treated topsoil, the living skin of the planet, like a substrate for chemicals and called it farming. Topsoil is disappearing. When it goes, the earth forgets how to be earth. It becomes ground. And ground is not the same thing. Air. We filled the communal air with noise. Not just pollution, although, yeah, also pollution. Noise. Engines, notifications, music in every public space, and content designed to never let you finish a thought. Silence used to be feared because spirits lived there. Modern culture fears silence because the self lives there. And the self might have opinions. Spirit, we declared that anything which cannot be measured does not matter. Meaning beauty, love, grief, wonder. None of these appear on a balance sheet, so we treat them as hobbies. Optional. Fine on Sunday, but don't bring them to work. Then we had the audacity to be surprised by the mental health statistics. I'm not surprised. I'm just mildly curmudgeonly. Maybe not so mildly. I've been sitting by this fire, for a long time. The answers were always here. We just kept walking past them to get to the parking lot. Now, let's talk personally. Some of you are mostly fire with a sprinkle of air, basically a flamethrower with opinions, emotional tidal waves with legs. Some of you are earth, stubborn as a boulder with a to-do list. Some of you are air, floating off like a balloon that someone forgot to tie down. And some of you are ether, beautiful souls who forgot where they parked their reality. Balance is not a destination, it's a dance. And some days you've got 2 left feet. Anyway, having said all that, I want to come back to why all this matters. We live in an age of extraordinary capability and extraordinary lostness. More information than any humans have ever held, but less orientation. More connected, also more isolated, more comfortable, but more anxious. Something is missing from the arrangement, and I don't think it's another app for your phone. The elements are not primitive chemistry. They are a map of what the world feels like from the inside. Fire is transformation and the danger of unchecked passion. Water is memory and grief and patient movement. Earth is nourishment and staying power. Air is relationship and meaning moving through space. And ether? Ether is the quiet something that makes all the other things matter. The goal isn't perfection, it's harmony. The elements aren't enemies, they're a choir. Some days one sings louder, some days one goes off key, but the song is still yours. So tonight, sit by a fire if you can. If you can't, light a candle. Watch it for a couple minutes. Actually, watch it. Put your feet on the ground, drink a glass of water, and think about where it's been. Go outside. Feel the wind. Come back to the elements. They've been waiting. So shine without permission and try not to set anything on fire unless it's metaphorical. And if you absolutely must make a purchase after midnight, bring Earth with you, make it watch. Walk in the light, friends, and carry your life with gravity, not the kind that crushes people, but the kind that reminds them that you're not made out of packing peanuts and wishful thinking. If something in tonight's fire pressed on you, good. That's what real things do. Feathers drift, stones endure. Choose which one you want to be. And if you want to keep sitting by this fire with the rest of us stubborn, myth-haunted humans, then join the circle. Subscribe. The link is down there. Support us. Share the flame. Share the link with a friend. Because the night is long, the world is loud, and most people are out there trying very hard to be spiritually inflatable, but not here. Here we carry weight and we carry each other. Here we keep the fire burning.